Mega Pyroar's new ability Fire Main makes it one of the hardest hitting Pokemon in all of Pokemon Champions. I used my new tool PKData to figure out exactly how much damage Mega Pyroar can do into the current format, the best spreads to run on it, and which partners help cover for the few Pokemon that Mega Pyroar can't incinerate on its own. And I ended up going 12-1 with the team on the heels of a 9-win streak. I'm Zane, aka Direwolf. Let's dive in. When Pyroar Mega evolves, it gets a 20-point bump to all of its base stats. And when it was first revealed, that was pretty lackluster and not really worth your Mega Evolution. When you're competing against a Mega Evolution like Mega Charizard Y as your team's special fire type attacker, Mega Pyroar's base 129 special attack stat doesn't hold a candle to Mega Charizard Y's base 159. Not to mention, Mega Charizard Y gets to set the sun, so when it's using fire type attacks in the sun, that base 159 special attack stat looks more like a base 231. But this is where things get a little interesting for Mega Pyroar. Weather Wars are a staple of Regulation MA, and they're bleeding over into the Regulation MB format. So if you're playing against a team that can take away Mega Charizard Y's sun, such as a Mega Frostlass, Mega Tyranitar, or even a Pelipper, Charizard is back to just firing with its base 159 special attack stat. And don't get me wrong, that's still a crazy high special attack stat, but it's about to get dwarfed by the numbers to come. Mega Pyroar's Fire Main gives it a self-contained boost to all of its fire type attacks. So even in snow or sand, when Mega Pyroar is using its fire type attacks, it's essentially leveraging a base 191 special attack stat. That's just 3 shy of Mega Mewtwo Y for those of you scoring at home. But unlike Mega Meganium, whose new Mega Soul ability doesn't stack with weather, Mega Pyroar's does. And Mega Charizard Y isn't the only Pokemon that's capable of setting the sun in Pokemon Champions. If we pair Pyroar with Torkoal or Ninetales and give its fire boosted attacks a sun boost of its own, that base 129 special attack is suddenly vaulted all the way up to 312. Not to be outdone, a lot of the Charizard Y teams are starting to run Farigiraf with Helping Hand. And in the sun, with a Helping Hand, Charizard Y leapfrogs Mega Pyroar with an effective base 373 special attack stat. But Torkoal and Ninetales both get access to Helping Hand. So we can mirror this Charizard strategy and let our Mega Pyroar deal sun boosted, Helping Hand boosted, Fire Main boosted fire type attacks of its own. And if we stack all of that together, Mega Pyroar is now firing its fire type attacks off of a base 494 base special attack. Now that is a base stat worthy of a Mega Evolution, and it's exactly how I'm going to be building my Mega Pyroar team, by stacking as many damage modifiers onto this lion as possible and making it so that even resisted hits are doing well over 50% to your opponent's team. There are timestamps down below. I'm going to dive into my team building process using PKData, but if you just want to watch me torch things with Mega Pyroar, you can jump straight to the battles. And the first thing that you are going to notice is that Pyroar and Mega Pyroar have the same win rate and usage rate. This is just a known bug when you're using replay data because you don't have access to the full team sheet. So Megas and their base forms are going to show the exact same win rate, but we're going to select Mega Pyroar and add it to the team. So we can scroll down and we can see what teams people are starting to use with it, and we can filter by total number of games, total number of teams, or a combined win rate. And so if we look at the combined win rate, we're going to see Venusaur, Sneasler, Aerodactyl, Kingambit, Garchomp, some pretty normal Regulation MA staples, but we'll also see Torkoal, and that's the Pokemon that I want to build around because Mega Pyroar's Fire Main plus the Sun plus a Helping Hand is able to pick up some crazy knockouts. So we want to build specifically around Torkoal and Mega Pyroar. And so if we scroll back up, we're going to see that Mega Pyroar and Torkoal are loaded to the team with a base win rate now of 64.8%. Scrolling down, we can see the other members of the teams that were using Mega Pyroar as well as Torkoal. And I think Farigiraf is a really great partner with the priority blocking for a really fast Mega Pyroar, as well as the ability to set up Trick Room for a really slow Torkoal. And one of the best tools for a Trick Room team to have is a really fast sweeper to come in after Trick Room is expired and clean up the game from there. So Farigiraf enables Torkoal, Torkoal enables Pyroar, and Pyroar enables Farigiraf. So I do want to build around Farigiraf, Mega Pyroar, and Torkoal. And you'll see that we lost all of the rest of the teams. There are no more candidates that meet our minimum games of 20 and minimum teams of 2. Still very early format, so we can drop those down and we can start seeing what's showing up. So if we drop that down to 5 games, we'll see that we've got Meowscarada, Venusaur, Sylveon, Whimsicott, Maushold, Sinistcha. So one of the things that I'm looking at just right here is that Sylveon plus Torkoal is really strong oppression with Eruption plus Hyper Voice under Trick Room. So let's add that. Here, we can start building our team with coverage in mind. So we're gonna start with the Lion of the Hour, our Mega Pyroar. And if we scroll down, we've got a pre-populated list of moves that we can choose from, and as well as conditions that we can switch around. So we'll get to that in a second. But first, as Charizard taught us, Heat Wave in the sun is a really good move. So let's just start with that and let's see what happens. So if we go back up to the top of our coverage optimizer, we see that we have a 2-hit KO coverage into 43% of the meta, 9.4% one-shot into the meta, as well as 22% super effective coverage into the meta. And this is calculating all of the Pokemon within Pokemon Champions times their usage rate. So it's prioritizing knockout potential into Pokemon like Incineroar and Garchomp, while discounting knockouts into Pokemon like Watchog and Beedrill. But we are a Sun team. So let's see what happens if we switch our weather to Sun. And in the Sun, Mega Pyroar is now knocking out over half of the roster, half of the time, and a quarter of the roster in a single one-shot with its Heat Wave. But we can do more, and we can add Helping Hand. And if we add Helping Hand, suddenly we are hitting 74% of the roster and one-shotting 46% of the roster. And just to really showcase how dangerous this move is, let's add the strongest fire type attack that it gets, Overheat. And if we add Overheat, we are now hitting 96.7% of the roster and one-shotting 2/3 of all of the Pokemon in the game. And if we toggle over here to the one-hit KO filter, show all, this is it. This is the list of Pokemon that will survive a Mega Pyroar, Overheat, Helping Hand in the sun. So if the rest of our team can have coverage into these Pokemon, some of the bulkier fire types, dragon types, water types, and rock types in the format, we're gonna be really well positioned to just take KOs with Mega Pyroar. Flashing back to our 2-hit KO, we're gonna see that this list is entirely bulky resists. So that is a thick fat Snorlax, double resist Mega Charizard X, Dragonites, Hisuian Arcanine, as well as, if you notice, 6 Pokemon that all have Flash Fire that take 0 damage from our Overheat. So we need to have an answer into these Pokemon in particular, these 12 that are going to resist the sheer power from Mega Pyroar. And if we have that, we've got a really good team composition. So our other main damage dealer that isn't going to do fire type damage on this team right now is Sylveon. And Sylveon normally runs Hyper Voice, normally runs a Fairy Feather, and that's already added. So between the two of these, we're picking up 2 hits into most of the meta. So just adding Sylveon dropped this number down to 9. So we're now picking up several more 2-hit KOs, and we're in a really strong position. If we say we're gonna add Helping Hand here, that removes everything except Hisuian Arcanine and our 6 Flash Fire Pokemon and the bulkiest boy of them all, Thick Fat Snorlax. So our Torkoal, Pyroar, Sylveon core is gonna struggle into fire types, but especially those 6 Flash Fire users. So we need something that can easily handle them that still has synergy with the rest of the team. And the first thing that comes to mind is Mega Blastoise. It pairs well with Farigiraf and Sylveon, and we can add Sinistcha as that 6th member to help keep Blastoise healthy and firing off really powerful water spouts. And Mega Blastoise is going to have no problem into those Flash Fire users. So there are no teams that have run this exact 6 before, but that's okay. We are going to send this to our EV optimizer. And then this is going to open up the team in an EV optimization format. It's going to auto-populate the movesets based off of usage, but given that these are still early format Pokemon, and this is brand new, this one doesn't have usage, but if we click over to Torkoal, it's going to show that typically runs Charcoal, Drought, Eruption, Protect, Heat Wave, Weather Ball. We're gonna drop one of these in favor of Helping Hand, and we're probably gonna drop Heat Wave. I think Weather Ball having the single target 100% accurate move is really strong. But before we start picking our EVs, we've got to know what moves we want to run. And so if we scroll back up and we go to our coverage optimizer, and now let's look at what Blastoise can do. So if we load in Blastoise, first move we're gonna be running is Water Spout. And by itself, no conditions, no Shell Smash, no anything, Blastoise's Water Spout is 2-shotting 74% of the field and 1-shotting 25%. And notably, the Pokemon that are now resisting this are grass types and other water types. So now the things walling Mega Blastoise, Mega Pyroar eats for lunch, making this a pretty easy 2-mega team to pilot during team preview. And now, looking at our coverage options, do we want to run Dragon Pulse, Dark Pulse, Ice Beam, or any of these other moves? And we can filter it based on the 2-hit KOs, the 1-shots, or new super effective damage that we get. So it does look like we are getting more 2-hit KOs with Dragon Pulse, but we're getting more 1-hit KOs with Dark Pulse, as well as significantly more super effective coverage. And if we're gonna run maybe a Shell Smash on this set, we can see what that looks like. And now Water Spout alone is picking up 97% of the Pokemon, and we're just missing Heliolisk with Dry Skin, Bulk and Toxicroak with Dry Skin, and bulkier grass and water types again. And so while Dragon Pulse may look like a good option, remember we have Sylveon on this team, so Ice Beam or Dark Pulse become the go-to moves. And actually, even though it doesn't get boosted by Mega Launcher, Ice Beam seems to be the strongest move going into the rest of the things that we're weak to. So we are just gonna run an ability-less Blastoise here, and we're gonna add Ice Beam. And now the only things that resist us are Milotic, Goodra, Vaporeon, and Slowking. I am very okay having negative matchups into those 4 Pokemon. Okay, so going back to our EV optimizer, if we're gonna use our Mega Pyroar, we're gonna give it Heat Wave for sure, and then we can give it Overheat, but I don't think we need that significant damage. I'm okay with just running Flamethrower, and having a perfect accurate move, and Hyper Voice, and Protect. No item. And so what do we want this EV spread to do? Well, if we load threats here, we want to maybe be able to survive Sneasler's Close Combat, maybe a Basculegion, Aqua Jet, or Wave Crash in the Sun, Garchomp's Earthquake. And we don't just have to pick one of these, we can pick all of them. So we can tech for a Sneasler Close Combat, a Basculegion, a Garchomp, and then something on the special side, maybe a Milotic Scald. And so now that's been loaded into our survival constraints. We want to be able to survive Close Combat from Sneasler, and it's going to auto-populate whatever the most common spread is, so we'll run Jolly Sneasler. Basculegion's Aqua Jet, I'd rather look at what Wave Crash does, but specifically with our weather in the sun. Or Garchomp's Earthquake, and we want to check for doubles, so this would make it for singles and make it single target damage. Doubles, because we're playing VGC. Earthquake does spread damage, and so that does keep it a little bit reduced. And then Milotic Scald, we want to survive that in the sun, but we don't want to just survive one hit, because Milotic doesn't do a whole lot of damage, and we don't have an Intimidate user to make us competitive do more. So we'll chain another hit. We want to be able to survive 2 Milotic Scalds in the sun. And let's just optimize and see what that does. So we need to be bold, lax, impish, or relaxed to be able to take any of those. And so let's look at what that is. And so it looks like the biggest threat to our Mega Pyroar is actually Sneasler's Close Combat. So if we're okay not being able to take a full attack Jolly Sneasler Close Combat, we can drop that and not run full bulk. So let's do that, because we also have Farigiraf. So we know that our Farigiraf needs to be able to handle Sneasler. So we'll run the optimizer again. Great, now we've got more options. We can be timid, we can be modest, we can do anything here, and we've got enough bulk, basically just without teching anything, to survive Garchomp's Earthquake, Basculegion's Wave Crash. One thing to note is that that was a Jolly Scarf Garchomp. What happens if we give it Life Orb? Run it again, we're still good. We only need 3 points in physical defense to be able to survive any of those attacks. We don't need any more bulk. And because we already know that Mega Pyroar is going to be one-shotting most things and two-shotting basically everything, we don't need more attack. So I'm can just come in here and set the nature to timid and just say this is going to be the fastest thing in the game. So if I scroll down, I can also add some KO constraints. So say Mega Staraptor is one of the most popular Pokemon in the game right now. And I want to be able to KO Mega Staraptor with a Flamethrower in the sun, because I am going to outspeed it at base 110. We can optimize for that, and I just need 3 points of defense now for my survival and 7 points of special attack to pick up this KO. And that means we can go into the calc and dump everything else into special attack, speed, HP as needed. So if we go to speed, anywhere from 0 to 32 with our timid Mega Pyroar, this shows us what we would be outspeeding. And so if we can get to 190, we're outspeeding a really big step integer here. And so if we come over here, that 190 is a big jump, and we can scroll down and look at what that detailed table looks like. And we don't need to show all the rows. So if we can get to 190, we're outspeeding Jolly Sneasler. So we don't need to be worried about surviving those Sneasler close combats if we can just outspeed and knock it out. Same thing with Mega Frostlass. We can potentially, if we get to 195, that speed ties Basculegion that's adamant. But I'm okay only getting up to 190. We don't need to outspeed Basculegion or Talonflame, and there's nothing with significant usage outside of that. So if we just stop, go back to our calc, and we stop at 190. So this is 195, bring it down by 5. Our speed is now 190. We have the most special attack. We only needed 3 defense to survive the Basculegion Wave Crash in the Sun, as well as Garchomp's Earthquake. And we can just dump the rest into attack, or into HP. And that is our Mega Pyroar with Heat Wave, Flamethrower, Hyper Voice, and Protect. And we can add Protect as a move here, and add it to our team slot. And you can see up here, we've got a little check mark showing that it's been added. And so if we click Export Team, this is now a pastable showdown format. And at the end of this process, you can click copy and you can import it directly into Showdown. So I'm going to keep going for the rest of the Pokemon, and I'll show you the paste when I'm done. And so we've got a Mega Pyroar that can outspeed Sneasler and Mega Frostlass, survive Garchomp Earthquakes, Basculegion Wave Crashes in the Sun, survives 2 hits from Milotic's Scald in the Sun, and can one-shot Mega Staraptor with Flamethrower in the Sun. Torkoal survives Garchomp's Earthquake plus a Dragon Claw. It can survive Mega Tyranitar's Rock Slide, as well as Basculegion's Wave Crash in the Sun. Farigiraf can OHKO Sneaslers with its Twin Beam, survives +1 max attacks Mega Staraptor's Close Combat, survives a Mega Blastoise Dark Pulse, and can survive Kingambit's Black Glasses Kowtow Cleave. Sylveon can KO Garchomp with Hyper Voice, survive Sneasler Dire Claw, Garchomp's Poison Jab, or a modest Archaludon's Flash Cannon. Blastoise is spec'd to just do maximum damage and outspeed Scarf Typhlosion after a Shell Smash. And Sinistcha is able to survive Pelipper's Hurricane, as well as Kingambit's Kowtow Cleave. And it says Citrus Berry on screen, but because we already have Citrus Berry on Farigiraf, we'll give it the K-Cid Berry so that it can also survive a Last Respects from Basculegion. And I do want to give credit where credit is due. This project would not be possible without the open source data from the Smogging community, as well as the tournament data from both Limitless and Arcanine. And honestly, I wouldn't have even tried to make this publicly available if it weren't for the overwhelming support from my last video. So thank you. Seriously, that was so cool. All right, with this happy stuff out of the way, let's get into the battles. This first game is against a Mega Staraptor team. The first thing that we're going to notice is that Mega Pyroar is able to one-shot 4 of the 6 Pokemon on this team and be able to do significant chip damage into Garchomp and Dragonite. So I think this is a really good team to just lead Torkoal, Pyroar, and have the Trick Room mode of Farigiraf and Sylveon in the back. And our opponent leads Staraptor and Whimsicott. And this is a really safe lead for us because this gives us the opportunity to just knock out their Staraptor with a Flamethrower in the Sun and be able to threaten Eruption from Torkoal, because our Torkoal is able to knock out most Staraptor at +1 defense, and Flamethrower is always able to knock out Staraptor. So this forces our opponent to have to either use Tailwind or protect their Staraptor, assuming their Staraptor is going to close combat down into our Pyroar. So we see the Mega Evolutions, meaning that our opponent did not switch out, none of the dragons are coming in, and even if my opponent does decide to Tailwind with Whimsicott and close combat right into the Pyroar slot, I'm okay with this trade, because our Mega Evolution is less vital to our strategy than their Mega Evolution is to their strategy. And I don't want to risk the opportunity of a close combat going straight into Torkoal and neutering the amount of damage that we end up doing. Now I don't know if we're going to be picking this up, and if we don't pick this up, this is game over. Oh man, that's a lot of damage. Okay, I think we're pretty safe here unless they close combat into the Torkoal, which they don't. So we get to trade our Megas and bring Whimsicott down to its Focus Sash. I get to bring in Farigiraf, set up Trick Room, and we should be pretty clean from here. And there we go. Who was I to doubt the little fire turtle that could? Now, I could bring in Sylveon and attempt to quick attack the Whimsicott and take it out, but if they decide to use Tailwind, they're going to get their Tailwind up before my quick attack goes off, so that doesn't really feel like it's worth a whole lot. Instead, I can bring in Farigiraf, try to set up Trick Room, and still use Eruption with Torkoal because nothing else that they have in the back is going to be able to one-shot Torkoal. And as long as I get 1 point of damage onto that Whimsicott, it's going to go down. So I think that's the game plan, because neither Whimsicott or Garchomp are going to be threatening a KO into either Farigiraf or Torkoal, and once Trick Room's set up, Sylveon has the clean sweep in the back. And my opponent recognizing that they need to get rid of this Torkoal before Trick Room gets set up, but not recognizing that Tickle is going to be blocked by Farigiraf's Armor Tail, or just forcing me to have it. I think either play is respectable, but now this is a pretty free Trick Room. Even the critical hit on Farig barely does over 50%. And with that play, they pick up their own Whimsicott, which is the only thing that I was really trying to get out of this turn, so this chip damage on Garchomp is just an added bonus. Not a ton, but very cleanly in range of Sylveon once we can get that switched in. Now it just comes down to what they have in the back. If it's either Annihilate or Dragonite, we've got this locked up with Sylveon in the back. If it's their King Gambit, things are going to be a little bit dicier. But luckily it's just the Annihilate, so now I can double up into it with a Weather Ball and a Twin Beam and try and pick that up. But the more I think about it, I'm not sure that's the right call, because Protect from Annihilate and Earthquake from Garchomp does feel like a pretty obvious play for my opponent to try and pick up the Torkoal and chip Farigiraf even more. So I can Weather Ball into the Annihilate, force the Protect play, do significant chip damage otherwise, and then just protect my Farigiraf and make sure that that's still around for the next turn, and either Twin Beam or Helping Hand to get over a potential Rosalie Berry on the Garchomp. And that's exactly the play that my opponent goes for, protecting the Annihilate. And let's see if they go with the Earthquake from Garchomp. Yep, okay, there it is. So we lose our Torkoal, but that's a free switch in for our Sylveon. But luckily, we protected the Farigiraf and we've got it around for the next turn so that it can help Sylveon close up the rest of this game. Great job and Godspeed, Torkoal. Thank you for your service. Now we just bring in Sylveon and we can click Hyper Voice and Helping Hand and clean up this game. The only way that this play loses is if that Annihilate is Focus Sashed, and we know it's not because the Whimsicott was. So now our Pixelate boosted, Helping Hand boosted, Fairy Feather boosted Hyper Voice into 2 super effective targets. No Rosalie Berry procs, and that is a clean 2-hit KO to clean up this match. Now, this next match is actually a really easy team preview game. Our opponent has a Flashfire user plus a Primarina, so this is very clearly a Blastoise game with a Sinistcha endgame. Mega Dragalge unironically causes this team a lot of problems with that huge special defense stat and being able to wall fire, water, and not taking super effective damage from Fairy. So that could be an issue going forward, but we'll just have to see what our opponent picks during team preview. They're not incentivized to bring Skarmory with that Sun mode, so it's very likely going to be that Mega Dragalge. But we have Ice Beam on Blastoise to really help cover for that. And my opponent leads manual Psy-Spam here. This Meowstic has the ability to set priority Psychic Terrain, and then the Armarouge can just use Expanding Force, so that's going to do a lot of damage. But both Pokemon should be slower than at least Mega Blastoise, so this is a pretty free Water Spout, and then Meowstic can Fake Out, but then they're not doing significant damage with Armarouge. And then we can just use Hyper Voice to break any potential sash that there is on that Meowstic. All right, no switches, so this Water Spout should take the Armarouge as long as they don't Fake Out, which they do. But now we have the opportunity to Hyper Voice and just break any sashes. We do see that our Blastoise flinches before Armarouge moves, so we know that we're faster going into the next turn. And Armor Cannon doing just over 50% to Sylveon puts it in a pretty safe position moving forward into the next turn. And that's a good amount of chip, and we don't really need to leave Sylveon here exposed. We can bring in our Farigiraf to prevent any Meowstic shenanigans with whatever it might do with its priority moves. And then we don't need to get greedy here. We can just Water Spout. We do not need to set up a Shell Smash. We are going to be in a really safe position going into the backline. And with this Farigiraf swap, this Meowstic is pretty limited in what it can do. They might be able to set up Psychic Terrain, but that's only a positive for us at this point. We know our Blastoise is faster than Armarouge, and that Psychic Terrain is going to power up the only super effective attack that we have going into that Mega Dragalge. And with this front line gone, that removes its Regenerator ability as well, so all of the damage we do is going to stick. And this is why Mega Blastoise is such a great partner for this Mega Pyroar, because like we saw during team building, this Armor Rouge creates a real problem for our Sun team, but it is very easily handled by Blastoise. And our opponent had Primarina and Decidueye in the back line, so leaving both Megas on the bench. So the real thing that I was worried about was this Mega Dragalge, and our opponent, I guess, just didn't realize how good it was into this matchup. And now we just get to double up into this Decidueye. I would expect them to go on hyper offense with it because this is really the only answer into Blastoise. This is potentially leaving Primarina free to go for a Calm Mind, which with our full special team might cause some problems, but even a Helping Hand Hyper Beam is going to be able to pick this up in the end. Perfect, and Decidueye doesn't protect, so the only thing that would stop this from going down at this point is a flinch from Triple Arrows into Farigiraf, but I'm assuming they're targeting down Blastoise. And Primarina doesn't set up, they just go for the Moonblast, so even if they do get a flinch and they target down the Farigiraf, we're in a really safe spot to just Water Spout from here on out and then let the backline pick up Primarina. And they do target down the Farigiraf, so Sinistcha is just an endgame nightmare for my opponent. And they do get the crit, they get the defense drop, and they do not get the flinch. So our Twin Beam is able to pick up Decidueye, and our opponent recognizing that's game, so on to the next one. All right, and this next battle is a double turtle mirror with our opponent having both Torkoal and Blastoise, but looking like it's a more of a hard Trick Room mode with that Mega Steelix. So I think this is pretty easily a Pyroar Torkoal lead. We will set up the Sun, we will outspeed, and we threaten one-shots into the entirety of the team other than Blastoise, but this is where we can bring Sinistcha in the back and be able to have that super effective damage into Blastoise with our Matcha Gotchas. My opponent leads Annihilate and Mimikyu, and I think this forces me to gamble just a little bit. I have to risk the Heat Wave miss because I need to have the damage down on Annihilate and potentially pick up that KO while still having the opportunity to break the Mimikyu's disguise. My opponent could counter with Drain Punch into Mega Pyroar, and that potentially picks up the KO and then recovers all of the damage that I just did into it. But if they do that, they're leaving Torkoal alone, and that's a full powered eruption. So the worst case scenario here is that I double miss Heat Wave, but any other situation is fine. So my opponent stays in, no protects, and the gamble pays off. Both Heat Waves connect, that's good damage into Annihilate, and we break the Mimikyu disguise. So I could have picked up the Annihilate if I had gone for a Helping Hand with Torkoal, but that was just overkill into Mimikyu with its disguise still intact. Okay, Shadow Claw into the Torkoal does pretty minimal damage, and now they double up into the Torkoal. Takes Torkoal down to just under 50%, and the Annihilate gains about 20% of its HP back, and then Annihilate takes its Life Orb chip, so it should be pretty close to being in KO range to an Eruption. And it barely holds on. Mimikyu takes a really big chunk, but this does leave me in a slightly awkward position. I have Hyper Voice on this Pyroar for this exact situation where your opponent has two low HP Pokemon and you don't have to risk the miss in picking up both of those, except both of my opponent's Pokemon are Ghost type. So I do have to risk the Heat Wave miss if I'm going to pick up both of them, and Torkoal's not doing a whole lot, so I can just protect in the event that I do miss one of the Heat Waves. But luckily I was able to connect Heat Wave 2 turns in a row. That's a clean double knockout, and then now it's a 4v2 situation. But my opponent does get 2 free switch-ins, and no surprise, they do have the Blastoise in the back. Mega Steelix was not going to do a whole lot into this team, so I do think this is clearly the right call for my opponent. And now my own Torkoal is not doing a whole lot into this matchup, especially against a Mega Blastoise, and we need as much damage on it as possible to weaken those Water Spouts, especially in the Sun. So I'm just going to Helping Hand, Flamethrower, and put as much damage into that slot as possible, knowing that I am going to be outspeeding it this turn and potentially weakening it to the point that it's not threatening big knockouts if it does happen to Shell Smash. Because if my opponent gets a Shell Smash off with enough HP, there's nothing that I can do to stand up to that Blastoise for the rest of the match. Alright, there's Torkoal's Helping Hand, and now let's see what a Helping Hand boosted, Sun boosted, Fire Main boosted Flamethrower does into a Mega Blastoise. Okay, and Blastoise fakes out Pyroar. I have no idea what this set is then, and their Torkoal is now free to Eruption and pick up our Torkoal as in the Revenge KO. So it's very likely not Shell Smash, but it could be 3 attack Blastoise, and if it's 3 attack Blastoise, that's very problematic, because it's going to have Dark Pulse into both Farigiraf and Sinistcha, and then Aura Sphere into Mega Pyroar. So I can bring in Sinistcha, but now I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. I have to double into Blastoise to be able to pick it up, but if I do that, Torkoal's Eruption is able to pick up both Pokemon cleanly, and I don't think my Farigiraf is winning that 1v1. But if I double up into Torkoal, I'm not picking up that KO, but maybe my opponent can throw? And if they use Eruption and I do enough damage into it, something survives? I think at this point, my best option is a misplay from my opponent. But this went downhill fast because of that Blastoise fake out tech. Okay, Flamethrower doing a good 60% into Torkoal. Mega Pyroar does so much damage. I love it. Okay, and Sinistcha actually outspeeds my opponent's Mega Blastoise, so if they went for a Water Spout, this could be a really good spot. And I may have actually just gotten bailed out of this game with that crit on Blastoise. But unfortunately, they go for the Aura Sphere into Mega Pyroar, and that is definitely enough damage to pick it up cleanly. So now I just need to hope that my opponent went for an Eruption and is doing reduced damage into Sinistcha. But unfortunately, they don't. That's a perfect turn for my opponent, not risking the HP-dependent moves, going for Aura Sphere and Weather Ball, which are just two clean knockouts. And so now it's Farigiraf against the world. We know our Farigiraf survives a Dark Pulse from Mega Blastoise. There's just one turn left of Sun, so this is a pretty easy Protect turn, and just hope that my opponent doesn't have Shell Smash. But I think from the moves that we've seen, that's a pretty safe bet. And then I can Twin Beam into Blastoise next turn and hope that's enough to KO, and assume that my opponent's only other attacking move is going to be Eruption, with Weather Ball doing next to no damage outside of Sunlight. And we take the Dark Pulse and the Weather Ball, Sunlight fades, so my opponent did not set up a Shell Smash, which means this is just going to come down to not flinching from this Dark Pulse. Alright, here goes nothing. Here comes the Dark Pulse. And we live it on 1. We tech for that. Alright, now we just need to make sure that we don't flinch, and this is going to be enough damage to pick up this Blastoise. Perfect, and it is. And now it just comes down to what the other attacking move from Torkoal is. Man, this one's getting sweaty. And they used Weather Ball. We're going to have to see how much damage this does, but we should be good. Okay, and without the Sun, thanks to our Citrus Berry that does not do enough damage to KO, we're going to be able to outspeed this Torkoal, and Twin Beam is enough to pick up the KO. Man, we definitely should have lost that one, but that was so cool to see the team building come in clutch the way that it did. And this next match looks like it's hard rain with Sableye, so I don't think I can bring Torkoal Pyroar at all because I'm always in jeopardy of losing weather before I get to attack. So I think this is pretty cleanly just a Blastoise with Sylveon game, and then having the Farigiraf Sinistcha option in the back. And my opponent leads Glimmora and Sableye, so I actually think this is a pretty free switch out from Sylveon into Farigiraf to stop anything that Sableye is going to try and do, and set up a Shell Smash. Glimmora should outspeed Blastoise, so it's just going to land its attack into Blastoise if it chooses to do that, but I think it's most likely they're just going to Sludge Bomb into what was Sylveon, and then just hit Farigiraf for minimal damage. So Farigiraf comes in, we see the Mega Blastoise animation, so our opponent didn't switch out their Pokemon, and I think that switch into Farigiraf is going to give us a pretty clean Shell Smash, which should just sweep the game from here. And we block a Will-O-Wisp, which is fine. It's not like we have any physical attackers on this team, so just preventing that chip over time. And Glimmora does Sludge Bomb into Farigiraf. Unfortunately, it does just under 50%, so Farigiraf is going to be kind of a walking duck until it can take a little bit more chip and eat its Citrus Berry, but that does give us just a free Shell Smash to run from here. Now, where we can get ourselves into trouble is just Helping Hand Water Spout if that Glimmora has a Focus Sash on it, so I think this is a pretty safe turn to just Twin Beam the Glimmora down with Farigiraf and protect Blastoise, putting it in a better opportunity to sweep when we know that it's picking up knockouts. No surprise, our opponent pulls out Sableye. It likely only has priority moves, so it's pretty much rendered useless. And they do bring in our Chaladon to try and tank this Water Spout. Alright, and then our Blastoise protects. Glimmora does Sludge Bomb into the protecting Blastoise, so this is just a free Twin Beam into that Glimmora slot, breaking any potential sash, but unfortunately just shy of picking up the actual knockout. This is probably me disrespecting Blastoise, but I am not confident in this Water Spout picking up with a Helping Hand, and the way that I lose this game right now is by letting our Chaladon sweep, so I just need to remove that from the field. Farigiraf has the KO into Glimmora in the future, and as long as Farigiraf is on the field, that Sableye is basically rendered useless. No Protect, and our Ice Beam into our Chaladon is more than enough to pick up the one shot, and now we just need to be able to survive this Sludge Bomb from Glimmora at -1 special defense. And we do. It's close, but we've definitely got it. And my opponent sends in Mega Staraptor, and this is where I forgot about the HP mechanics of Water Spout and thought that this was just a free Helping Hand Water Spout turn. And it is to pick up the Glimmora, but it's not going to be enough damage to pick up Staraptor. where an Ice Beam into Staraptor and Twin Beam into Glimmora probably made more sense, but does put me at risk of Staraptor protecting and then Glimmora picking up the knockout into Mega Blastoise, and then they have the opportunity to run wild with their Mega Staraptor. So in the end, I do think Water Spout was the right play, but I needed to bring in Sinistra and recover HP instead of trying to do the Helping Hand flex. So we get rid of the Glimmora, and then my opponent doesn't target down the Blastoise, trying to remove the Farigiraf, knowing that their Sableye can't do anything with it on the field. Our Farigiraf survives, and now we're in a very clear position to just Ice Beam the Staraptor with Blastoise, pick up that KO, and then Farigiraf plus Sylveon cleanly picks up Sableye in the end. So we're going to protect the Farigiraf to just not risk that Staraptor protecting and then potentially losing Farigiraf to a foul play or another dark move from that Sableye. But no protect from the Staraptor. Sableye goes for another priority move, which is blocked by Armor Tail. So I'm assuming it only has priority moves at this point. And Ice Beam is enough to pick up the Staraptor. So with Farigiraf on the field, that Sableye just doesn't do anything. Our opponent recognizes it and concedes the game. This next match being into a Mega Charizard Y team. This is pretty common from the regulation MA format. I'm very happy to play in Sun, so is my opponent. So we're just gonna lean into the Sun mode. We're gonna bring Torkoal, Pyroar, and just do as much damage as we can to that front line. And then probably switch the speed tiers at some point mid-battle, flip that Trick Room mode on, and then Sylveon should be able to clean up everything once everything has been sufficiently chipped from Mega Pyroar. My opponent leads Garchomp and Sylveon, and I know that our Sylveon in the back is gonna be able to handle Garchomp with or without Trick Room. So the priority right now is to remove the Sylveon. They can check our slower Sylveon with a Hyper Beam, and I want to protect Torkoal to keep it safe from either an Earthquake or a potential Stomping Tantrum, and then we can work on that next turn with a faster Pyroar. So we'll protect with Torkoal, Flamethrower down the Sylveon, and that should be enough. I mean, we've seen resisted hits doing well over 50%, so this neutral hit should be doing enough, despite Sylveon's really aggressive special defense bulk. And we see the Mega Evolution come out from Pyroar, so no switches from our opponent. As long as they don't protect the Sylveon, that's just really good damage into that slot. And we see our Torkoal protect, so no protects from my opponent's side. And Flamethrower comes out from Mega Pyroar, and it is enough to pick up the one-hit KO into Sylveon. I don't know if that crit mattered, but it definitely could have. And unfortunately, Garchomp Stomping Tantrums into our Mega Pyroar, so we did have a free eruption from our Torkoal, or even a Helping Hand in the event that that crit mattered, and unfortunately leaving our opponent's Garchomp healthy going into the next turn, and our Mega Pyroar severely damaged. And our opponent sends out Mega Charizard, and since we uselessly burned the protect with Torkoal last turn, it's kind of a sitting duck going into this round. So our opponent's pretty free to just do a Stomping Tantrum or a Dragon Claw into that slot, and then they can risk the Heat Wave with their Charizard and potentially leave us on the board. So I think that's what we have to hope for, is that they are going to go for the attack into the Torkoal slot, and we can just put a bunch of damage into the Charizard slot and then hope they get greedy and go for the Heat Wave and risk the miss. And we do know from our team building session that Charizard Y is one of the Pokemon that can tank this attack. And this one, it looks like it's just bulky enough. It barely hangs on. Okay, and our opponent left us the opening. They went for the Stomping Tantrum into Torkoal. And they went for the Heat Wave, but unfortunately they connected and they get the double knockout. So they did risk the miss, and if we have that 10% chance of Pyroar surviving, we are in a dangerous position to threaten that Charizard and then be able to set Trick Room with Farigiraf on that next turn. But we're down and not out. We are still in a really good position to be able to set Trick Room this turn, and Sylveon is able to knock out both of these Pokemon with a Hyper Voice. So as long as we can get a Hyper Voice off, we are in a really commanding position to seal this one up. Now, my opponent runs away with this game if they can get the double up and pick up one of these knockouts without me maintaining speed control. So if they double up into Farigiraf and I protect Sylveon, it's game over because they can pick up Sylveon next turn. If they double up into Sylveon and I protect and I set Trick Room, I'm in a very commanding position. So I think this turn I need to go aggressive and I need to set Trick Room, and click Hyper Voice. And then I only lose if my opponent plays very risky and doubles up into that Sylveon, which is kind of an obvious protecting slot. But it looks like that is exactly what my opponent's doing. Stomping Tantrum into Sylveon, Weather Ball into Sylveon, and that is game. I can set Trick Room, but Farigiraf on its own is not getting through the 3 Pokemon. That was very risky, but very well played from my opponent. And I'll take that. Can't win them all, but that being the only loss with the team so far, I think this is a pretty strong showing of what Mega Pyroar can do. And now the last battle is going to be a sand team. And ironically, this is a really strong matchup for Mega Pyroar outside of Excadrill and Tyranitar. So I do think we have to leave it on the bench, but it is able to torch Corviknight, tank the Basculegion Wave Crash in the Sun, and OHKO the Sneasler. So if it wasn't for the threat of the Tyranitar Excadrill, this is a game that Pyroar could absolutely run wild. Unfortunately, this is one that Blastoise is just going to pair better into both Megas. So we should lead Mega Blastoise in this matchup. Oh, and my opponent goes with the Scovillain mode. This would have been a really fun matchup to flex with the Pyroar on. But we're still in a really good spot. There's nothing that's threatening down Blastoise. These Scovillans rarely run a Grass-type move outside of Leech Seed. And if that's the case, then we can just set up a Shell Smash and regardless of what's in the back, just be able to plow through the team with Water Spouts. And I'm choosing Hyper Beam here because if the Basculegion stays in, I want to be able to delete it. If it flip turns into the Sneasler, I want to be able to delete that. And I don't want to be risking the Hyper Voice burn. If the Scovillain redirects, I'm fine with that. That's just big chip damage and then Blastoise can clean it up later. But I don't want to just do chip for the sake of chip and then burn my Sylveon when Blastoise is going to be able to just very cleanly one-shot everything with Water Spout. And there's our Shell Smash before the Scovillain moves, so that is a little risky. If they do have a Giga Drain, this could potentially one-shot the Blastoise, but we do see the Leech Seed, so now we're just in a really, really commanding position. And Hyper Beam is enough to delete that Sneasler. It was not sashed, and so now we're in a 4v3 with a fully set up Blastoise. We are going to take a little bit of Leech Seed chip, which is going to reduce the amount of damage that our Water Spout does, but not by near enough. And Corviknight in the back is not going to be able to help here. So this is Sylveon's Force Turn to recharge. We just get to click Water Spout. And that is a clean 2-hit KO. No Leech Seed damage because the Scovillain was removed, and now it is a 4v1 into a Basculegion. And I'm assuming this Basculegion is Choice Scarfed because we saw Flip Turn, which means it has to either lock into a Wave Crash, which isn't going to do a whole lot, into Blastoise as well as Sinistcha, or it's going to lock into Last Respects to knock those out, and if it does, we have Farigiraf in the back that's fully immune. So I think this one's pretty well locked up. But no reason to get risky here. We can just protect with our Blastoise, Hyper Voice with Sylveon. In the event that it's a Sash, that breaks the Sash, and then we have a clean Water Spout with a Sinistcha switch in on the following turn. And we do see the Last Respects come out. So regardless of what the item is on this Basculegion, this is now a 100% win condition. We either knock it out with Water Spout, or we switch in Farigiraf, and it's never doing enough damage into Farigiraf. So because of the Leech Seed chip as well as the burn damage, we're going to bring in our Sinistcha, heal up our Blastoise to almost max HP. And now this Water Spout is definitely doing the 30% remaining HP to the Basculegion. Sinistcha comes in. Heals up Blastoise. And Basculegion goes down. And that is game. And if you want to know how this project came to be, you can check out the video that started it all here, or check out this video that YouTube thinks you'll like. Either way, I'll see you there.